Hello team, welcome back. Welcome to Nginx training, and in this section we will learn about the Nginx performance, how we can improve the Nginx performance, and what are the directives, the configuration which we need to tune to get the maximum performance from the Nginx server. So first we will get to know the application of few directives, then we will directly go to the lab. So let's start with. So over here, first we are discussing about the client caching, right? We will discuss how we can make the client caching model with the help of the Nginx. When I'm talking about the client caching, then I'm talking about the caching system at the client side. It means caching management at the browser side. If you will open your browser, suppose we are opening a browser. So here I have opened my Chrome. If I will go to the left top, these three dot icons, I will click these, and over here I will go to the setting. I will search for the cache, right? So over here we have the cache and more. Let's click this, and if you will go to the cache section, then over here you can see I have the 299 megabyte image or files as a cache, right? So this cache management is the browser side or the client side cache management. Sometime you may have faced some problems that if your website is not getting properly or your logout is not working properly, then people recommend it to clear out the cache and cookies of your browser. So we will see with the help of the Nginx how that particular cache will be managed, right? So right now you can see in my browser I have 299 megabyte cache. So we are going to talking about this particular cache management so that my application performance will be more good because user will get the data from directly their browser cache instead of the server. So over here we will save the time between the browser, the client and the server communication and the data transfer, right? We will see what kind of files we can cache at the browser side and how we can cache these files with the help of the Nginx web server. So we will learn how all browsers, non-browser HTTP clients supports the client side caching. The main point is that web servers do not control client side caching to full extent because that is not the part of the web server. Client is the another party which is situated at the user side, and web server is your party. So web server don't have the full control of the client side caching, but web server can issue some recommendation, and these recommendation will help the client to manage their cache. So we will see what are these recommendation which we can pass, and these recommendation can be handled with the help of the HTTP response header. So web server can issue some kind of recommendation to the client that how they can manage the cache data for that particular site, and that recommendation can be going through with the help of the HTTP response headers. So we have few response header. The first response header or the first directive is the cache control header. This is the most important header to set as a effective switching on caching in the browser side. Whenever you want to switch on the caching at the browser side from your web server, you need to add the cache control header in your response. Without this header, the browser will request the file on the each subsequent request. So we can understand this if cache control header is missing in your response, and within 1 hour same browser same user is hitting the same static file 10 times, then always web client will send the request, your server will process the request and send the response. So it means if the cache control is missing in the response header, then every time user will request some resource, that request will be processed by the web server. But if cache control is present in the response, we can keep a copy inside the cache of the client so that that copy will be directly served to the user from the browser cache instead of the web server. The cache header few values, and the first value is the public. Public resource can be cached not only by the end user's browser but also by the intermediate proxies that may be serving many other users as well. And you can define the cache control public like this: cache hyphen control colon public. So if we are defining the cache control public, then not only the user who is requesting that particular resource, but all intermediate proxy, right? They can also cache that particular resource so that they can be served to the other user as well. Generally, or 98% developers or DevOps engineer will keep that particular property public. Then the second is the private. Private resources are bypassed by intermediate proxies, can only be cached at the end client. It means the copy of that particular resource only be cached at the end client who is basically trying to access that particular resource. All the intermediate proxies, all the intermediate servers, they will not cache that particular resource. So we can understand this particular thing with a simple example. Suppose my application server is situated in the Tokyo, right? And I am the user from London. Also, there is a proxy server which is situated in the London for the UK users, right? So when I will hit the request, that request first go to the proxy server which is situated in the London, and then that request will be go to the web server from the proxy, right? And if the cache is public, then the static resource which I'm asking, the copy of that particular resource will be cached at the proxy server plus as in the. So now we will get the two cached copies, once at the user side and another one at the proxy server side. In that case, all the users who are going through with the London proxy server, they will get the cached copy which is cached at the London proxy server instead of the web server, right? So it will improve the performance of the website for your users who are geographically distributed. But if you will keep that particular private, it means all the users from the UK who will hit that particular request at least one time, that particular request will be processed by the web server instead of the proxy, which will introduce the delay. So ideally the cache header should be public instead of the private. Then third property is the max age, which is combined with the private and the public, right? So we can combine the max age with the public and the private, and max age is basically indicating the maximum amount of time that the resource can be cached before considering the stale. It means over here if you are defining 2 hours, 2 days, 3 days, then at the browser side, at the client browser side, or at the proxy side, that resource will be cached for the 3 days, right? After that, that particular resource will be stale and we need to put another request to cache that particular resource. This value sets in time span how long the cache is resource in second, right? So you can define the complete syntax like over here, which we are displaying in another color: cache control public comma max age equals to some timestamp, and that timestamp should be in the seconds. The another directive which we have the cache control is the expires. Expires accompany the cache control header, and expires simply set a date from which the cache control resource should no longer be considered to a valid. It means this also works as a max age, but it is a bit different from the max age. In the max age you are defining the time in the seconds, but in the expire you will define the time in the date. I will show you how we can define it. And from that particular date forward, the browser will request a fresh copy of the resource. Until then, the browser local cache copy will be used. So if you are defining the expire like 5 months, 5 years to up to 5 years or up to 1 years, that particular resource will be cache in the browser if user is not going to clear their browser cache, right? And after 5 years or after the defined expire time, a fresh copy of that particular resource will be again requested from the web server and again cached at the client side. Now the question is, if both the expire and the max age is combined with the cache control, then what will be the preference? So in both case, if expires and max age are basically accompany the cache control, then max age will take the precedence. It means max age will take the precedence. If the max age and expire both have the different times, max age time will be considered for the cache control or the cache expire. Now let's see how we can do that particular thing with the lab. So let's go to the terminal. So over here we are on our machine Ubuntu custom Nginx, right? Let's log in the same machine in the blue terminal as well. So I'm logging my machine which is ending with 130 pass IP address. Clear out the console. Now let's see what we have inside our configuration file. So vi etc nginx nginx.conf. So this is my configuration file. I'm going to remove all the unnecessary things from this particular configuration file which we have learned in the last lecture. And suppose inside the server I'm going to define one more location. And inside my location block I'm going to define some hypothetical location like which is equals port.jpg. Although this particular location is not present in my brownie side, but I'm defining some hypothetical location over here. Then I'm defining a block, and inside the location block I'm defining like return 200 and some string. Hello, this is dummy location. Right after this I will close this. Now I will save my file, reload the nginx. I will go to my another browser. Now I will make a call curl -i, define my IP, HTTP protocol, and my IP is 104.131.80.130. Then access the port dot jpg. Hit enter, and I'm getting the 200 request over here. Then I'm getting the server, then date, then content type, then content length, and then the connection. Let's do one more thing. Let's add some header over here. So I will again update it and go to insert mode, and I will define one more location, add underscore header. Then I will define my header name, which is underscore my header, right? Then define the value of this particular header. Suppose I'm defining inside the double quotes dummy value. Let's close this, save your file, check the nginx configuration, nginx-t file is okay, reload the nginx, right? Let's go to the another terminal and hit the same request which we hit earlier. And this time you can see I'm getting one more entry over here, which is my header, right? And I'm getting the my header value as well. This time inside the response, when I'm hitting this particular request, inside the response I'm getting the header. So this header will help me. Right now this is the custom header, but I will modify the headers and I will add the cache control header and the expire header in my. So I will again go back to the terminal, open the configuration file, and now I will add the real headers. So I will clear out my header. First I will define the cache control public header. Then I will add one more header over here, which is called pragma public. Pragma public is the earlier header before the cache control. You can see this is the legacy copy of the cache control. So it is good to define it. It will not harm you. But if some websites, some web servers, some browsers are still using some earlier protocols, then definitely this will help you. Then I will add one more thing over here. And this time I am basically accepting the encoding. If some resource are basically encoded resource, then I'm going to accept that particular thing. And in last, I will add the expire. So I'm defining the expire like 6 capital M, which is 6 month. If you want, you can update it, right? You can update it like 2 months, 4 months, or in year if you want to define the capital Y. I'm going to define it 2 months. I will save my file, check the Nginx configuration. Is it okay? Yes, is it okay? Reload the Nginx, go to another terminal and hit the same curl. And this time you can see I am getting a lot of entries. After the connection alive, we are getting the expires, and expire I am getting Thursday 22 October 2020. It means this is 2 months after detail when I'm recording this particular video. At this particular time, all the resource which we are accessing on this particular path, they will be expired. We are also getting auto controlled max. You can see I didn't define the max age inside the properties file, but I'm still getting the max age. This max age is basically calculating automatically on the basis of the expire date. Then we have the cache control, which is public. Then we have the pragma, which is public, and then we have the vary, which is accepting encoding. So now this time we have defined all these parameters for this particular specific resource path which we have customized. If we want to make it generic, how we can do that? So we will again modify the Nginx configuration, and over here inside the location, instead of this hard coded path, I will provide some generic statement. Then I will put the regular expression. Then I'm saying suppose all the files which have particular extension, and what extension I'm supporting, like CSS, JS, JPG, JPEG, and PNG. Save this file, check the configuration. The configuration is okay. Reload the Nginx. Now let's do one thing. Let's clear out the console. Tail the logs, tail -f, and var log nginx access.log file. Hit enter and do one thing. Let's hit your web server again. So I will go to the browser and I will hit my web server. And you can see I'm getting my website. Now I will go to the terminal, and inside the terminal you can see we will have some path for the JPG or JS query. See, we have some JS query path. I will copy this, exit out, clear out the console, and this was the call which we was hitting. After this I will append this JS path. So what we are trying to see, we are trying to see when I'm hitting the JS, what is the header which I am getting. Hit enter, and you can see this time we are getting all the header with this particular JS. Why we are getting this particular header with the JS? If we will see cat etc nginx nginx.conf, because we have defined the all extensions which have the CSS, JS, JPG, JPEG or PNG files inside this particular block. So all the files which have the CSS, JS, JPG, JPEG and PNG, all these files will be cached at the client side for the 2 months as defined with this particular header, and same we are getting that it is being reflected over here. If you will try to find out some HTML page, that header will be missing. You can try. Let's hit curl, and instead of this let's try to hit 130. So I will get the HTML page, and this header is not getting over here, right? Because HTML page extension is not defined over there. If you will define the HTML inside the location, you will also get the same header for the HTML, and HTML page will also be cached at your browser location. So these tweakings in the configuration or these instructions are very helpful for the production sites or the sites which have the multi geolocation users and have a very heavy traffic. So thank you team, thanks for your time. If you have any doubt, any question regarding this particular lecture, please let me know. I will be happy to answer your questions.